the comparison colors make the Hey folks, it's Carrie from Pretty Neat. Thanks for joining me. If you're new here to my channel, welcome. I share new videos here every week about organizing and decluttering your home and adopting a minimalist mindset, so I hope you hit the subscribe button and stick around. I would like to talk today about selecting paint colors for your home. This is a deceptively difficult task. Most people think you just go to the store, you look at that giant wall of little squares of paint colors, you pick one, you put it on your wall, and your room looks great. And unfortunately, there's a lot more to it. And this is one of the services that I offer. I am an interior designer as well as an organizer. So in my job, I am often helping people pick paint colors for their homes. And over the years, I've learned a lot of things about how to do this right and how to make a mistake. One of the biggest mistakes that I see when people are selecting paint colors is that they paint the actual color right on the wall, or they have some type of paint swatch, a pre-made swatch that maybe they've picked up at the store, a little square or something, and they have it taped up onto the wall and they are looking at it up against their current wall color. This is problematic because our eyes are constantly comparing things, and if you have a paint swatch up against your current wall color, your eye is making that comparison and it will potentially make the color look different than it will look when it is the color painted all over the walls. This is along the lines of an optical illusion effect, and I'll put one up here on the screen. You have a single color in these X's, and depending on what color the X is placed against, it makes the X color look very different from side to side. So something similar can happen when you are selecting paint colors and you're looking at potential new colors up against your current wall color, particularly if your wall color is a little bit deeper or if it has a stronger undertone to it. It can really make the new swatches look really different from the way they will look once the entire room is painted. So the way to address this is to look at your paint swatches against a white background. I use a piece of white paper or a white envelope, something that's a bright, clean white, and I put that on the wall, and then I place the swatches up against that. That allows your eye to see the color. It can stand on its own against the white, and you're not comparing it to the wall color. There are a number of paint companies now that are coming out with these large swatches that are adhesive, and they're basically a large sticker that is a paint color, and it allows you to stick it on the wall. I like the size of these, and I'm going to talk about the size of the swatch in just a second. But what I don't like is that this is encouraging you to just stick this up on your wall. It can really misinform you about how that color is going to look on its own. The second issue that I see, and I just hinted at this previously, is I see folks selecting paint colors from a tiny swatch. If you go to Lowe's or Home Depot or one of those stores, they have this wall of swatches. I'm sure everyone has seen this. And the swatch cards are tiny. Let me grab one. So typically the swatches are somewhere in this kind of size range. And these are so small. It's very difficult to get any sense of what your paint color is actually going to look like from a 1-inch square or even like a 2 or 3-inch square. These are really difficult to choose from. They don't give you a really clear picture of how the finished color is going to look. If at all possible, I recommend getting as large a swatch as you can Some stores do provide larger swatches, or certain companies will mail you the larger swatches. I typically select from Benjamin Moore Paints, and they do offer this service for designers and people in the industry. So if you go to your paint store, you can probably request that they get you some larger swatches, or if you work with a designer, someone like me, they can get them for you as well. So the size that I use when I'm doing paint color selections is something like this. These are about 8 or 9-inch squares. This just allows you to really get a better view for how the paint is going to look rather than those little tiny 1-inch swatches. Another major factor when you're selecting paint colors is light. The way your light is in your room is going to make a big difference in how your paint color appears. As we all know, the light changes throughout the day, and what you might not be as aware of is your paint color is going to look different on all the walls in your room, and that is because the light hits the walls differently. Generally speaking, the wall that is across from the largest windows in the room will be the lightest, and the wall where the windows actually are is the darkest. If you look around the room that you're in currently and it's daytime, you will notice this, that the wall space around the windows, the walls look darker, and obviously I'm sitting across from big windows here, and the wall behind me is the lightest, brightest wall in this room. What this means is you need to consider your paint color on all of the walls in the room. That is why painting swatches directly onto the walls is also troublesome, because to really get a good idea, you need to paint a swatch on every wall. I think it's much easier to have a movable swatch. As I said, I try to have something white that is attached to the wall, and then the paint swatches can be viewed on top of that. And the beauty of doing this on a piece of paper or poster board is that you can move it around the room, and you can move it on all of the walls and see how it will look in the darkest spaces in your room and the lightest spaces. I also recommend looking at the swatches at different times of day for the same reason. It's going to look a lot different in the evenings than it will during the day. So you should ideally check your swatches at those different times of day and see how it will look at night in your room. A related tip is that you have to select your paint colors in the actual room that you are going to be painting. So choosing a color in the store is a definite no-no. This is a recipe for disaster. You need to see how the paint is going to look in the room. The lighting in stores is completely different. It's probably a much colder or bluer toned light in your paint store, and it just doesn't give you a good representation for how it's going to look in your home. The final mistake that I see being made when people select paint colors is the built-in finishes are not being taken into account. So I'm referring to things like your flooring, your woodwork, if your room has any tile or countertops or anything like that. The colors that are in those finishes need to be considered when you are selecting the paint color. I think there's a bit of a misconception that neutral colors all go together, and that is simply not the case. So shades of tan and taupe, and even all the ranges of whites, creams, they do not all necessarily play well together. Even neutral colors have an undertone. Some of them look more yellowy, some of them look more pink, some might have like a bluish undertone or a violet undertone. This is a real complex thing to talk about, and it's really beyond the scope of a quick video about selecting paints. I think I can boil it down by saying that you need to look at your paint color up against all of those different finishes in the room and make sure that it feels cohesive, that it doesn't feel like it's competing or that it looks off, or do they not really seem like they belong in the same family. that's an indication that maybe your undertones are off and you might want to pick a different shade of neutral. So I hope this video was helpful. If you have other questions about selecting paint colors, feel free to leave them down in the comments. I'd be happy to help you out with those. And if you liked this video, please hit the like button. It helps my channel out a lot. And don't forget to subscribe. I share new videos here every week about organizing and decluttering your home and adopting a minimalist mindset. Talk to you soon.